getting fat. So your typical bro that's doing a hit style workout, low volume, eating ribeyes and smashing a potato and sticks of butter, all that stupid shit. They take insulin and then they wonder why they get fat. Well, no shit, motherfucker. You're not training with enough volume to actually have the benefits of the increased GLUT4 transport and glycogen synthesis that you're going to get from the increased insulin use and carbohydrate intake. You're also eating way too much fat. And what do you think is going to happen when you're in a caloric surplus and you're eating excess fats while taking insulin, which is going to supercharge your fat storage? It's going to supercharge nutrient uptake. You're just going to end up in a state where you're going to just get fucking fat. And it's more so not a problem with the insulin. It's how dudes train. It's how their diets are structured, and they're idiots in how they put all this stuff together. I don't know why it had not occurred to most of these dumb motherfuckers that you can't eat a high-fat diet
You're just going to end up in a state
and do
where
minimal training volume and reap the benefits of insulin. You'll see it all the time. Like the guys that say that insulin was useless, I didn't get anything from insulin, where the dude's doing low volume. Well, no shit, it's useless because you're not actually reaping the benefits of the increased GLUT4 transport and all of the other things in your silly keto diet that you're doing. Look, if it works for you, I like poking fun at the keto and carnivore guys, but I do occasionally put people on low carb, high protein, higher fat diets. I think in certain applications it does work, but for a bodybuilder who is taking insulin and wants to get huge, have those big round full muscles, it's probably not the wisest approach for the fat dad that is trying to get in shape. Yeah, no, it's better than probably the shit diet that you were eating before. And just some things to keep in mind with insulin. I like to strategically place it on high carbohydrate days in a carb cycling approach, because the issue you run into with it is if you're slamming it all the time, I see bros that are also doing it every fucking day, all day long, every day, and then the problem you run into there is the more insulin you use, the more insulin resistant you become, and then you have to use even more insulin, and then you make yourself diabetic. So that also can be an issue as well. So I like to strategically pick a couple days a week where we push the carbohydrates really high, and I use insulin on those days to leverage the benefits from it, and I make sure that my training has sufficient volume to reap the benefits of the increased GLUT4 transport. I know Milo Sarchuk does giant sets and things like that, but it's just more volume at the end of the day. And I do like to train hard and heavy sometimes too, but you have to think that what your goals are with the insulin and how you're leveraging it. During a fat loss phase, I stay away from insulin, because when you are using insulin, it turns off lipolysis. You're shifted away from fat burning to storage. So probably doesn't make sense in a diet phase. And also, you should be in a caloric deficit. If you're using insulin in a caloric deficit, you're just going to end up making yourself hypo. I did use it sometimes on my high days when I was running a contest prep, and then you just get to a point in contest prep where you get so lean that glucose disposal is so great that even on the high days, even slamming 1,000 grams plus carbs, this tiniest little bit of insulin would make me go hypo. So that's no good either. So these are all just things that we have to keep in mind when we're deploying insulin. But I think most people just completely use it wrong. That's why they get fat on it. They don't train correctly. They don't eat their diet correctly. They take the wrong types of insulin. I've done 1,000 videos about why and when to use certain types of insulin, basal versus rapid versus medium acting. They all do different things as far as we are concerned for performance enhancement. I'm not going to go into that now, but you can see some of my older videos for that. All right, next question here is from Westside Aaron. Westside ask, what's the most painful body part for you to train? For me, it's hamstring, specifically seated leg curls. The burn is so intense, it feels like the muscle might fail before the strength does. Have you experienced anything like that? Yeah, dude, for me, it's shoulders. I don't know why. I've always gotten crazy shoulder pumps. My shoulders feel like they're on fire. And I remember back to being a kid. I grew up in the country. You know, we did country things. We stacked hay. We you know, had to split wood and things like that. And I remember my dad making me stack hay and split wood when I was a kid, and my shoulders would be absolutely on fucking fire. And I'd be complaining to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I can't do this. I need a break. And my dad's answer would be, "Don't be a pussy." That was his answer for everything growing up. And I didn't know what the hell was going on. I thought something was, I was hurting something. I thought I was hurting myself, and I had no idea what I was feeling was the burn and pump from using my delts. It's probably why my delts have always grown easily. They're one of my body parts that seems to excel as far as getting bigger, and that's what I found is that dudes that have these body parts where it's easier to get a pump or a burn, that they fail. You hit this pain threshold before you actually fail. Those are usually the body parts that grow the best for you. For whatever reason, I am delt dominant. My delts kind of will take over and overpower everything, even on arm curls, even bench press. Like when I was doing bench press, my only thing that happened to me with doing flat barbell bench press is my front delts just got absolutely massive. It was all front delts for me. And, you know, and same thing with pull downs. Like I noticed doing pull downs and barbell rows, my rear delts got massive. I guess it's a good problem to have because a lot of people have a hard time growing delts. But that, for me, that's the body part that screams at me the most, that gives me the most pain when I'm in training. And I'm sure most people will not say deltoids is the muscle that gives them the screaming pain. But for me, it's delts. I think most people, it's legs. I can fucking hammer my legs, and my legs don't you know, they burn, but they're not like my delts. My delts seem to be the
Stream
ones that
settings.
yell at me the most.
Basic.
All right, next
End
question
live
here is from
video if
Christopher
stream
E.
stops.
He asked, "Are there any
Comments.
downsides to running
Send
growth
and
hormone
receive
year-round?
comments
I'm
during your
following
live.
your cycle guide
Live gifts.
and planning
Allow
10
viewers to
units
send gifts during your
per day
live.
on a bulk and 5 units on a
Audience
cut and 10
controls.
units on a rebound.
This live is
and
limited
2
to those
units
aged
while
18 years
cruising.
and older. Super fan
I ran
subscriptions.
growth hormone continuously
Super
for
fan
like
only
8 fucking
chat.
years. I never stopped
Super
using
fan
it. Now
only
I did
live.
up and lower the
Only
doses.
super fans can watch this live.
We have a lot of data on growth hormone. I feel like I've beat this one into the ground, and there's growth hormone questions on every episode. But growth, a lot of misinformation out there about growth hormone. If you go and look at the long-term clinical use data, the FDA has it available for Serostem. It's out there. I'm sure for genotropin too, but Serostem is probably the most relevant one. Because it's used in adults while there are HIV patients, but most of these patients are also on testosterone therapy or hormone therapy, and it's long-term use. These guys have been on this stuff for decades, whereas like genotropin is mostly used in children with growth hormone deficiencies, short windows, 6 months, a year, whatever, however long they're on it, they're not used. But Serostem, dosed in HIV patients, is dosed at 18 units per day, and these guys are on this stuff for decades. So we have a lot of long-term use data. And the single most common problem long-term, if you look at the clinical information, the two most, there were really 3 big problems that they saw long term with it. But the biggest risk really is making yourself insulin resistant and developing type 2 diabetes from it is really the biggest downside that we need to manage with it. Carpal tunnel, there's long-term use can cause permanent carpal tunnel, the peripheral edema. There is a risk of acromegaly long term. I mean, I have definitely seen my hands have grown. My big ass head, I've got the GH horns on my head. My nose has grown, although my father's got a fucking gigantic nose too. I don't know how much of that is, but it's the body parts that tend to grow and keep growing as you age can continue to grow. And I wouldn't say that I run a ton of GH. I did briefly try the Chase Irons protocol of 18 units a day. I lasted about 10 days on that, tapped out, but typically my high-end dose would be around 9 or 10 units per day is where I just kind of fucking tap out. I can't go more than that. And a lot of times I've been running like 4 or 5 units a day. I would say this, I know you talked about your doses on the rebound. I would be cautious on the rebound. A lot of times I keep the doses a little lower on the rebound because of water retention can be a huge problem when you increase your carbohydrates. So just something to be mindful of. Monitor water retention and see how it is. On your diet phase, typically water retention is not an issue. I usually use a little less. I think you have it set on here to run a little less on the diet phase, because really the main benefit that we're trying to get from GH is the increased IGF-1, and when calories are restricted, you're doing a bunch of cardio. AMPK is going to be up, mTOR is going to be down, IGF, all of the cycles, how to do the year-round blast and cruise method detailed on there, how to manage and mitigate side effects. I have also in there insulin protocols, all these other things that it's all simple, broed down, made simple. I even put pretty pictures in there for you cavemen who prefer pictures over words on how to put stuff together. So it is caveman proof. I literally wrote it like a Dr. Seuss book. So it's easy to digest. If you want the deep dive, we also have the Anabolic Z course that Kurt Havens and I did. That's sort of the 500 level course on PEDs. If you want the basics, you just want to get to the nuts and bolts of the information. The cycle cheat sheet's $30. You can pick it up over on the website. Links in the video description below. All right, next one is from the class clown Joshua Perry. This is actually not a clown joke. This one's a funny one. I like this one, or a good one. This is not a funny one for a change. Josh asked, let's compare two bodybuilders, one starting at age 25 and one starting at age 45, both with a 5-year plan. How would training, PED use, and dietary strategies different between those two age groups? Not that radically different. I would probably say as you get older, you just have to be more careful with everything. That's the big thing, big difference. You can't mash the gas pedal down like you could when you're 25. I mean, I look back like, fuck, when I was 25, I'd go out drinking all night long, hammering tequila shots, and sleep 5 hours, get up, go to the gym, train, go play a tackle football game with my friends at the park, go home, do it all over again, take Anadrol while I'm drinking, and everything was just fine. It was just fine. If I did that shit in my 40s, I would have been in the fucking hospital. You just have to be more careful. You have to be more cautious with the PED use. You have to be more meticulous with the diet. I will tell you this, it's easier to get fat as you get older. Usually when you pass that 40 barrier, it seems like fat gain just sort of creeps up on you. It's really easy to gain fat once you get past 40, so you have to be more meticulous with the diet. Fat loss becomes a little harder when you get a little bit older. Training, you have to be more intelligent with your training. I would say probably less use of the big 3 compound movements. You do still want to progress and use some sort of progressive overload if you are a beginner trainer. That is the foolproof method for growing. But you do have to be more cautious with exercise selection. I would say you have to really consider the risk versus reward ratio of selecting exercises. Is this exercise going to put me at risk of tendon or connective tissue injury? Whereas when you're 25, you can just fucking go balls out. Do deadlifts, squats, cleans, whatever the fuck you want to do. But long term, the plan's the same. You want to progress. Everything progresses. You want to progress your training. You want to progress your food intake, slowly ramping up your food intake and increasing your capacity to eat more food. You want to turn yourself into a rice and meat eating machine over the period of time, get your metabolism nice and high. You want to put on lean tissue, not gain fat. With the PEDs, you want to use enough to get the job done, but not so much as to make you sick. I would say when you're younger, as far as PED use goes, guys can get away with using more orals and harsh shit like Tren. When you're older, you probably can't get away with that stuff. Like I remember doing my test DECA and D-ball cycles when I was in my 20s, or running Tren, high dose Tren, stupid shit like that, and even in my early 30s. I can't get away with that now. So it's test primo GH for me now. That's about all I can fucking handle at this point. And same thing with training. Like I